15th this year, Councillor Edward Bolton, aged 50, one of Fulchester's leading public figures, was in his office at number 106 Market Street. During the afternoon, he had occasion to call in his secretary, a Miss Gillian Hayes, aged 18, from the outer office to take down some dictation. What took place whilst Miss Hayes was in the councillor's office not only shocked his colleagues, but today is the subject of the case of the Queen versus Bolton in the Crown Court.
The prosecution alleges, members of the jury, that the defendant, after blowing or breathing on Miss Hayes' neck, said, "I bet that tickled. Never mind, I'll scratch your back for you." She will say that he put his hand down her back, attempting to unfasten her brassiere, and then began to fondle her right breast, so that she was obliged to wriggle to one side in order to escape his attentions. So much, members of the jury, for the allegations which form the basis of this charge. However, Miss Hayes will also say that it was but a culmination of a series of incidents which, again, to use her own words, made my life a misery. As for corroborative evidence, there is an office colleague of Miss Hayes, a Miss Barbara Foster, who will say that as she entered the office, she in fact saw her friend trying to escape the defendant's attentions. She will further say that he had his hand inside Miss Hayes' blouse, and that her friend was extremely distressed. Miss Foster was in fact so incensed by this that she remonstrated with the defendant, calling him a dirty pig. And she further alleges that the defendant replied, "She was enjoying it until you came in, you silly bitch." A complaint was subsequently made to the police, and when charged, the defendant replied, "This is ridiculous. A man of my position." A man of my position. Now you must all be aware, members of the jury, just who the defendant is. He is extremely well known in the locality. He has been in local politics and taken a leading part in the social, official, political life of the area for something like 25 years. Now plainly, an accusation of this nature is of extreme importance to a man like this. Not only is the man on trial, but his immense public reputation as well. But I must remind you, members of the jury, as I'm sure His Honour will do at a later stage, that you must not allow the defendant's position to bedazzle you. For two reasons. One, that your sole interest is, of course, the facts. And two, that a public reputation not only commands respect, but should also presume certain standards. And with your Honour's leave, I would like to call my first witness for the prosecution, Mrs. Veronica Hayes.
That lady is called the complainant first in these cases.
I appreciate that, Your Honour, but there are rather special circumstances which, in my respectful submission, I feel justify the course I am taking.
Very well. I rely upon your mistake.
What is your full name?
Veronica Hayes.
And where do you live, Mrs. Hayes?
18 Shakespeare Avenue, Fulchester.
Are you the mother of Gillian Hayes, the complainant in this case?
Yes, I am.
Do you remember the afternoon of July the 14th this year?
Oh, yes. That was the afternoon it all happened.
Now, do you remember it?
Very well.
What were you doing?
Well, I was at home making the tea. I bought a bit of fresh salmon for a treat, you know. Well, it's so expensive.
Now,
you can only get it
what happened when you were making the tea, Mrs. Hayes?
Well, I put the salmon in a pan with a bit of water, because it doesn't need a lot of cooking.
Just the facts of the matter in hand, please, Mrs. Hayes. Embellishments are not only of no consequence, they waste valuable time.
Sorry.
What happened?
Oh, well, Jill suddenly walked in.
Where from?
Well, from work.
Was this her usual time for coming home from work?
Well, it was only 4:30. She doesn't usually get home till nearly 6. Later, if she didn't get a lift from Mr. Sharp next door.
And what was her demeanour?
Pardon?
Oh, was she happy, sad? What mood was she in?
Well, I thought she must be ill at first, but she said she wasn't.
So there was something not quite normal about her then, was there?
I didn't notice anything at first. It was just her being so early.
When did you notice something?
When she suddenly burst out crying. She hung up her coat and she'd gone into the front room, and then I heard her crying.
And what did you do?
Went to see what was wrong, forgetting all about my salmon.
What was wrong, Mrs. Hayes?
Well, couldn't get a word out of her for love nor money, not at first. But eventually she said, Mr. Bolton's been meddling with me.
Your daughter then made a complaint to you, did she?
I'll say she did, after a lot of persuasion.
And what did you do as a consequence of what she told you?
Well, took her down to the police station, didn't I? Very sharpish.
Thank you, Mrs. Hayes.
Fresh salmon was burnt to a frazzle, I might tell you, not to mention a perfectly good pan.
What were the special circumstances for calling this witness first, Miss Tate?
I'm sorry, Your Honour. She has a rather important hospital appointment to keep. Isn't that so, Mrs. Hayes?
That's right. I'm not well at all. And this business hasn't helped much, I might tell you.
Mr. Dealey.
How old is your daughter, Mrs. Hayes?
Just gone 18.
Is she lively, quiet, reserved?
Normal?
So she's not rather quiet and reserved then?
Well, she doesn't go out all that much. Not like me.
Pardon? I didn't quite catch what you just said.
I said Jill doesn't go out much like me. I like a bit of life. Health permitting, of course.
Health permitting, of course.
Well, you only live once, don't you?
Indeed we do, Mrs. Hayes. Indeed we do. Tell me, does your husband live with you?
We're parted.
You're parted, I see.
We never got on. His ideas weren't my ideas. He's a home bird.
Like your daughter, maybe?
Well, I suppose you could say that.
Tell me, Mrs. Hayes, has your daughter got a boyfriend?
No, not that I know of.
Not even a casual one?
No, I keep telling her it's time she had, but she never takes any notice. She's a big reader.
A big reader? Had your daughter ever made any previous complaint against Councillor Bolton?
Hardly mentioned him. Still, she wouldn't. She's not very forthcoming about anything.
In fact, she wasn't very forthcoming about this particular complaint, was she, Mrs. Hayes? In fact, she needed a lot of persuasion before she'd tell you anything about it, I think you said.
That's right. But I dragged it out of her eventually.
You dragged it out of her eventually. Do you know Councillor Bolton?
Only by name. Well, I've seen his picture in the paper often enough. Well, everybody does, don't they?
Isn't it true that last year you had a dispute with your landlord, the local council?
Well, it wasn't exactly a dispute. It was more of a misunderstanding.
They suggested that you'd taken in a lodger, which was contrary to their policy.
Well, he wasn't a lodger. He was a friend. A guest.
Nevertheless, you were ordered to ask him to leave.
That's right.
By the Housing Committee?
Yes.
Of which Councillor Bolton was chairman.
I never dealt with him, though.
He was chairman.
I believe he was.
You were very quick to take your daughter to the police station, weren't you, Mrs. Hayes? Sharpish, I think was your word.
Well, if you'd have seen the state she was in, you'd have taken her to the police. Nobody meddles with my daughter, and definitely not dirty old men, that's for sure.
That's all, Mrs. Hayes, thank you.
You may stand down, Mrs. Hayes.
What is your full name?
Barbara Foster,
And where do you live?
at 20 Belfield Street, Fulchester.
What were you doing on the afternoon of July the 14th, Miss Foster?
Typing out a list of local holiday dates.
Where?
At work.
Where is work?
Fulchester Trades and Labour Council offices.
Perhaps it might be as well to establish the precise nature of the defendant's employment at this stage, Your Honour.
Yeah.
The defendant is also employed there, isn't he?
Yeah, he's secretary, a boss.
Who else works there?
Well, me and Gillian Hayes did. We've been sacked.
Gillian Hayes, the complainant in this case.
Who?
The girl against whom the assault was committed.
It's an alleged assault, Your Honour.
The alleged assault, if that will make my friend feel better. Oh, Miss Hayes? Miss
I've
Foster?
forgotten what you asked me.
Is Gillian Hayes, your office colleague, the girl who was allegedly assaulted?
She was definitely assaulted.
Now, did you and Miss Hayes each do a similar job?
Oh, Jill was his secretary. I was just the office dog's body. She's better at shorthand than me, you see.
Going back to the afternoon of July the 14th, where were you?
In the outer office.
And Miss Hayes?
In his office.
Was Mr. Bolton in there with her?
Well, of course he was.
Right. So you were in the outer office, and Mr. Bolton and Miss Hayes were in Mr. Bolton's office?
Yeah, that's right.
Are the two offices side by side?
Oh, yeah, bang next door.
Well, what happened then?
Well, I finished typing out a list of holidays, and I went into his office to give it to him.
And what did you see when you got into the defendant's office?
I saw him standing behind Jill with his hand down the back of her blouse.
Is this the blouse that Miss Hayes was wearing?
Well, if it's not, it's one dead like it.
I'd like this entered as an exhibit, Your Honour. In fact, it's my only exhibit. About the blouse, Miss Foster. It's a very loose-fitting one, isn't it?
Loose? It's like a tent. You couldn't tell what anybody was, well, like under it, could you?
The neck is loose as well.
Yeah, like a tent.
So it wouldn't be difficult for anyone to slip their hand down the back of it.
Oh, easy as pie.
Which is what you say the defendant was doing when you went in.
Really, I don't
Definitely
think my
not.
learned friend should lead her witness quite like that.
Indeed, Mr. Dealey, she should not.
I apologize, Your Honour. Did the defendant see you come into the office? I mean, immediately.
I don't know.
Did he not say or do anything?
No, but Jill did. She sort of ducked her head down and slid off her chair.
Onto the floor?
Well, no, she was sort of crouched down like, and then she stood up.
What was her demeanour?
Pardon?
What was Miss Hayes' attitude, her condition?
She was red in the face.
Angry?
Well, no, upset. Yeah, definitely upset.
Why do you say definitely, Miss Foster?
Well, Jill wouldn't exactly be enjoying it. Not that, being meddled with.
You're referring to the defendant having his hand down her blouse.
And the rest.
The rest?
Yeah, do you?
Really, Your Honour, whatever it is Miss Foster's about to tell us, it can surely only be hearsay or even speculation.
Yes, be careful, Miss Tate. I can see the temptation, but I can't help feeling that Mr. Dealey may be right.
Did Miss Hayes say anything to you at this stage, in the office?
No, she just pelted out.
Did Mr. Bolton say anything?
Well, I'll say he did.
What did he say?
He said that she was enjoying it till I'd come in, and then he called me a silly bitch.
Did you say anything to that?
Yeah, I called him a dirty pig.
Then what happened?
Well, I put the holiday list on his desk and walked out myself.
And where was Miss Hayes at this time?
And she was in the outer office.
And
with her coat on.
What was her demeanour?
Well, she'd turned white, like she knew.
How well do you know Miss Hayes?
Well enough.
Well enough to say that she was extremely distressed when she left the office.
Well, what do you expect? We should just had her worst fears confirmed.
Her worst fears? What worst fears would those be, Miss Foster?
Well, Jill always thought men were dirty pigs, and now she knows they are.
Thank you, Miss Foster.
Now, Miss Foster, I wondered if you'd answer me one or two questions, please.
I don't mind.
When you entered Councillor Bolton's office, what was Miss Hayes' position in relation to the door? Was it facing it, sideways, or back to it?
Facing it.
And where did that put Councillor Bolton?
Or behind her, but more sort of side on to me.
So Miss Hayes was between you and whatever he was doing with his hand.
Yeah, I suppose so.
So how do you know he had his hand down her back then, Miss Hayes?
Well, I saw it there, didn't I? Or when she wriggled off her chair.
See. But you didn't actually see his hand until it appeared from behind her.
Oh, no.
So it could have appeared from anywhere then, couldn't it, Miss Foster?
Oh, not from anywhere. It must have come from down her blouse. Why else should she wriggle about if it weren't down her blouse?
What I want the jury to be quite sure about, Miss Foster, is that you didn't actually see his hand down her blouse.
Well, I couldn't if it were down her blouse, could I? But it couldn't have been anywhere else, could it?
Did you see his hand down her blouse? Yes or no, please, Miss Foster?
No.
Now, about this wriggling you say Miss Hayes did. She was sitting on a typist's chair, wasn't she?
Yeah.
At this point, Your Honour, I should like to introduce as an exhibit the chair in question. Now, Miss Foster, was that the chair Miss Hayes was sitting on?
One like that.
Exhibit 2, Mr. Dealey.
I'm obliged, thank you. How much like it?
Dead like it.
Would you, step down and sit in it, please, Miss Foster?
Well, it weren't my chair, you know.
Please.
Is this necessary, Mr. Dealey?
It is, Your Honour, to establish a fairly vital point about the security, or conversely the insecurity, of such a chair under certain circumstances. If you'd step down, Miss Foster. Now, Miss Foster, isn't it a fact that the size of that chair allows very little room for manoeuvre? I mean, the slightest assault on your balance would cause you to topple sideways.
I don't know.
We'll try. Would you lean sideways, please, either way? A little more. Thank you, Miss Foster.
Is that all, Mr. Dealey?
For the moment, yes, Your Honour.
Before you return to the witness box, Miss Foster, Miss Tate, have you any comment to make about this chair? Rather than go through the whole business again when you re-examine, as I presume you will want to do.
No, Your Honour. I don't see the significance of the demonstration at this stage.
No, very well then, Miss Foster, you may return to the witness box.
Miss Hayes had wriggled away and stood up. And you say she left the office.
That's right.
Red in the face, you said?
That's right.
Well, couldn't that have been a result of all these contortions you say she was indulging in?
She was upset.
According to your evidence in chief, it was now that the first words were spoken of any kind.
That's right.
What exactly did Councillor Bolton say to you, Miss Foster?
She was enjoying it till you came in, you silly bitch.
Is Councillor Bolton in the habit of using words like bitch?
No.
He doesn't swear?
No.
He's a clean-spoken man, in fact.
Well, compared to a lot, yeah, I suppose he is.
Do you use bad language, Miss Foster?
Well, who doesn't?
Well, you've just said Councillor Bolton doesn't.
Well, he definitely called me a bitch.
Now, about this phrase, she was enjoying it, etc. Didn't Mr. Bolton, in fact, say, I've told Jill she can go home. She's having one of her turns.
Oh, he never said that.
Well, Miss Hayes does have days when she's not feeling very well, doesn't she?
Yeah,
Fairly frequently, in fact.
I suppose so.
Tell me, Miss Foster, do you consider yourself an attractive girl?
Well, that's not for me to say, is it?
Well, go on, have a go.
No, not bad, I suppose.
How old are you?
18.
18 and attractive. Boyfriends?
Of course.
Experience, so far as men are concerned, then, would you say?
Well, I'm no mug. You have to know what's what, or you're in lumber.
Did Councillor Bolton ever impose himself on you?
How do you mean impose?
Make advances, touch you, put his arm around your waist, etc. 18, attractive, experienced. Did he never so much as touched your hand?
No.
Yet you're saying you saw him with his hand down the back of a girl who, according to her mother, is quiet and reserved. It hardly makes sense, does it, Miss Foster?
Well, he knew what he'd have got from me. He's not daft, you know.
Well, don't you like men making passes at you, Miss Foster?
Not him, I don't.
Why, don't you like Councillor Bolton?
No.
Because he didn't make passes at you, perhaps?
Oh, don't be daft. He's old enough to be my dad.
Well, why don't you like him, then?
Well, it's just a feeling. You get it about some fellas.
And that's why you're telling this court lies about him, is it? Because of a feeling?
I'm not telling lies. I'm telling the truth.
Gillian Hayes joined the staff after you, didn't she?
Yeah.
But she was engaged for the better job.
Really? Because he thought he was onto a good thing with her?
You told the court her shorthand was better.
Oh, well, yeah, it is. But that's not the only reason he took her on.
Did he tell you that?
Oh, don't be daft.
Did Miss Hayes?
Well, I doubt if she knew. Not at first, anyway.
So, what you're alleging is pure conjecture. Another feeling.
Look, I'm not often wrong. Not about fellas. And for one thing, he's got clammy hands, is Councillor Bolton. Clammy hands. That's always a sign.
Now try to speak up, please. It's the jury who have to hear you.
What is your full name?
Julian Hayes,
And where do you live?
18 Shakespeare Avenue.
No, you'll really have to do better, Miss Hayes.
How old are you, Miss Hayes?
18.
Yeah.
Until July the 14th this year, did you work at the Fulchester Trades and Labour Council offices?
Yes.
In what capacity?
Secretary.
Secretary to whom?
Councillor Bolton.
Did he actually engage you?
Yes.
What was your salary?
Well, I started at £12 a week and got a rise after 6 months.
How much of a rise?
£2.
Well, that was very nice. Did you expect it?
No, it was a surprise.
Who gave you this rise?
Councillor Bolton.
Councillor Bolton. Tell me, Miss Hayes, was this your first job?
Yes.
At 18?
I've been at Technical College.
Oh, I see. Did you like your work?
Yes.
You liked being a secretary?
Yes.
And you were well paid?
Yes.
Were there any snags to the job? I asked you, Miss Hayes, were there any snags to the job?
Councillor Bolton.
Speak up.
If I can't hear you, the jury certainly can't.
Councillor Bolton.
That's better.
Was a snag.
Yes.
Why?
The way he acted.
How did he act?
Familiar.
In what way was he familiar?
He kept touching me.
Where?
Anywhere.
Please ask your witness to be more specific, Miss Tate. I know she's probably embarrassed, but we seem to be in a cul-de-sac.
Where did the defendant touch you, Miss Hayes? Exactly where?
He used to put his hand on my shoulder and round my waist. And once or twice on my bottom.
Where?
Do speak up, please, Miss Hayes. You're only prolonging your own discomfort, you know.
Can you repeat what you just said, Miss Hayes? Please, Miss Hayes, this is a court of law. We're all people of the world. Could I lead her, Your Honour?
No, Miss Tate, certainly not. She's your own witness. Now, listen to me, Miss Hayes. You've told us that the accused touched your shoulder and your waist, and you've mentioned a third place. Now tell me, what was that third place?
My bottom.
Thank you, Miss Hayes.
What did he touch you with?
His hand.
When?
Mostly when I had to pass him.
In the office?
And outside in the corridor.
How often did he do this?
A lot.
Did you like him doing these things?
No, I didn't.
Did it upset you?
Yes.
Did it in fact make you miserable?
Yes.
Did you ever try to stop him?
No.
Why not?
Well, I didn't see how I could without
Without what, Miss Hayes?
having to give up my job.
And apart from these unwelcome attentions, you liked your job?
Yes.
Now I want to ask you about the afternoon of July the 14th. Do you remember that afternoon?
Yes.
Where were you?
Councillor Bolton's office.
And what were you doing there?
I was taking dictation.
From the defendant?
Yes.
How were you taking it?
With a pencil.
Literal questions beg literal answers, Miss Tate.
Indeed, Your Honour. What I meant, Miss Hayes, was were you standing or sitting?
Sitting.
Ah, yes, that chair. Well, we'll come to that in a moment. Now, where was the chair in relation to the defendant?
It's at the side of his desk.
And was the defendant sitting at his desk?
At the beginning he was.
And did he move at some stage?
Yes.
Where did he move?
He got up and stood behind me.
Right, Miss Hayes. Now, you're sitting on that chair taking dictation. The defendant is standing behind you. Then what happened?
I suddenly felt him blowing down my back.
Blowing? How, Miss Hayes?
With his mouth, I suppose. I couldn't see him.
How near do you think he was?
Oh, really, Your Honour? My learned friend is asking the witness to speculate.
I was going to ask if the blowing felt warm or heavy or soft or what.
I think that's reasonable, Mr. Dealey. Though I doubt if it's a definite indication of how far away the defendant was. More a question of the strength of his puff, I should have thought.
I'm obliged, Your Honour. Was the blowing heavy, light, or what?
No, it tinkled.
And what did you do?
Nothing.
You just put up with it? Did the blowing continue or did it stop?
Stopped.
Then what?
Councillor Bolton said. I bet that tickled.
And did you reply?
No.
Then what?
He said, never mind, I'll scratch your back for you.
And what were you wearing? Well, please, Miss Hayes, it's very important.
Blouse.
That blouse?
Yes.
Exhibit 1, Your Honour. Anything else, Miss Hayes?
A bra.
She said a bra, Your Honour.
Did you, Miss Hayes?
The defendant now has his hand down your back, Miss Hayes. What did you do then?
Tried to undo my bra.
Did he do anything else?
He rubbed my shoulder.
Did he touch you anywhere else? Now, I know this is particularly upsetting for you, Miss Hayes, but you really must try and tell us.
I don't know what to say.
Please.
As I've already told you, Miss Hayes, the longer you take to give your evidence, the longer your ordeal.
To expedite matters, Your Honour, and to spare the witness, I have no objections to my learned friend leading, within reason.
Thank you, Mr. Dealey. That would assist the court. And the witness.
Did he touch you anywhere else, Miss Hayes?
Yes.
Where? Your breast?
Now, take out your handkerchief and try to compose yourself, Miss Hayes. A handkerchief is a great comfort. I may say you're doing very well. Very well indeed. I think we might try to continue now, Mr.
I'm obliged, Your Honour. Not much longer now, Miss Hayes. What did you do when the defendant touched your breast?
I tried to get away.
How?
Wriggle away.
You didn't accidentally overbalance and fall on the floor, did you?
No.
I think it might assist the court if Miss Hayes demonstrated how she reacted rather than told us.
If you think she's up to it, Miss Tate.
Well, we can but try, Your Honour. I wonder if you'd step down, Miss Hayes, and sit on the typist chair there.
Do I have to?
And I rather think it might be easier for you than answering a lot more questions. Right, Miss Hayes. Now, assume the situation is as it was on July the 14th in the afternoon. You are on the chair, the defendant is behind you, and his hand is down your back. Now will you show the court just what you did? Thank you, Miss Hayes. That was excellent. Really excellent.
You said, Miss Hayes, that you'd worked for Constable Bolton for 6 months.
Yes.
And that during this time you made a number of unwelcome and unsolicited advances towards you.
Yes.
Yet it never occurred to you to leave the job, resign.
I liked it.
Yes, but you could have got another job, couldn't you? A trained secretary?
Suppose I could.
Oh, come now, Miss Hayes, there's no suppose about it, is there? Good secretaries are worth their weight in gold. So why did you persist in a job that was causing you so much distress? Miss Hayes?
She said it was, well, usual.
Who said?
Barbara.
Miss Foster?
Yes.
What was usual?
What Councillor Bolton kept doing, messing about.
Usual for him?
For a man, a boss.
So you put up with it because Barbara Foster said it was usual?
Yes.
For 6 months?
Well, there was no point in getting another job, was there, if the same thing was going to happen?
Now, I want you to think very carefully before you answer my next question, Miss Hayes. You're quite sure that you're not imagining this touching and arm round your waist, etc.?
No.
But you were rather expecting it, weren't you?
Expecting it?
Well, after what Miss Foster had told you.
No, I'd mentioned it to her first. She asked me what was wrong with me one day.
Yes, but I mean, you're not
What
really...
was wrong with you one day, Miss Hayes?
Councillor Bolton put his arm round me in the corridor.
Yes, I see. I think we ought to clear that point up, Mr. Dealer.
I'm much obliged, Your Honour. As I was saying, Miss Hayes, you're not particularly experienced so far as men are concerned.
Don't know what you mean.
Well, your mother tells us that you haven't got a boyfriend, for instance.
No?
Are you afraid of us, Miss Hayes?
Us?
Men?
No, I'm not.
Aren't you in fact rather afraid of working in such close proximity to a man? To Councillor Bolton?
No, not at first I wasn't.
But you'd never worked with a man before?
No.
Tell me, Miss Hayes, how long have your parents been separated?
8 years and 5 months.
So long. And you've lived with your mother ever since?
Yes.
Just the two of you?
Yes.
You've got no sisters or brothers? An only child, in fact.
Yes.
My lord seems to be going to great lengths to state the obvious, Your Honour.
Yes, I agree.
I just thought her domestic situation needed a little emphasis, that was all, Your Honour. Your mother tells us, Miss Hayes, that she has men friends.
A man friend, Your Honour.
It was singular, Mr. Dealer.
I'm obliged.